Cultural practices of non-monogamy around the world. Non-monogamy is a practice that manifests in various ways across different cultures around the world. Although often associated with modern Western societies, non-monogamy has deep roots in various cultural and religious traditions. This video explores some of the cultural practices of non-monogamy in different parts of the world, highlighting the diversity and richness of these traditions. Introduction to cultural practices of non-monogamy. 1. Cultural diversity in non-monogamy. Description. Non-monogamy is not a new concept. Various cultures have practiced forms of non-monogamy throughout history. Practical examples. Polygamy in some African and Asian societies. Open relationships in indigenous cultures of the Americas. 2. Influence of culture and religion. Description. Culture and religion play a significant role in how non-monogamy is practiced and perceived. Practical examples. Polygamy in Islam. Multiple relationships in ancient Hinduism. Practices of non-monogamy in different regions. Africa. Description. Many traditional African societies practice polygamy, where a man may have multiple wives. Practical examples. Among the Zulus, polygamy is a common and culturally accepted practice. In Maasai society, polygamy is seen as a sign of wealth and status. Asia. Description. Various Asian cultures have practiced polygamy and other forms of non-monogamy for centuries. Practical examples. In Tibet, polyandry, a woman with multiple husbands, is a traditional practice in some communities. In ancient India, religious texts mention forms of non-monogamous relationships. Trois Américas. Description. Indigenous cultures of the Americas have a long history of non-monogamous practices. Practical examples. Among Native Alaskan peoples, open relationships were common. Some Native American tribes practiced polygamy before European colonization. For Middle East. Description. Polygamy is permitted in many Muslim countries according to Islamic law. Practical examples. In Islam, a man may have up to 4 wives if he can treat them equally. Polygamy is an accepted and regulated practice in countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran. 5. Oceania. Description. Oceania cultures, including Polynesia, have long-standing traditions of non-monogamy. Practical examples. In Polynesia, multiple relationships were common and culturally accepted before the arrival of European missionaries. On some Pacific islands, polyandry was also practiced. Evolution of non-monogamous practices. 1. Changes over time. Description. Non-monogamous practices have evolved over time, influenced by social, political, and religious changes. Practical examples. The impact of colonialism on traditional non-monogamous practices in many cultures. Modernization and urbanization affecting the acceptance and practice of non-monogamy. 2. Resilience and adaptation. Description. Many cultures have adapted their non-monogamous practices to new social and political realities. Practical examples. Communities continuing to practice polygamy despite pressures for monogamy. The revitalization of traditional non-monogamous practices in some indigenous cultures. Modern practices of non-monogamy. 1. Consensual non-monogamy. Description. Consensual non-monogamy is a modern practice that emphasizes consent and communication among all partners. Practical examples. Polyamory and open relationships in Western societies. The emergence of communities and support networks for non-monogamous individuals. 2. Influence of globalization. Description. Globalization and the internet have facilitated the spread and acceptance of non-monogamous practices worldwide. Practical examples. Online forums and social networks where people share experiences and advice about non-monogamy. Increasing visibility of non-monogamy in media and popular culture. Frequently asked questions FAQ. 1. What are the main forms of non-monogamy? Answer. The main forms include polygamy, polyandry, polyamory, and open relationships, each with its own characteristics and practices. 2. How does culture influence non-monogamy? Answer. Culture influences how non-monogamy is practiced and perceived, with some cultures having deeply rooted non-monogamous traditions. 3. Is non-monogamy accepted in all cultures? Answer. No, the acceptance of non-monogamy varies widely across different cultures and societies, with some seeing it as normal and others condemning it. 4. What are the challenges of practicing non-monogamy in monogamous cultures? Answer. Challenges include prejudice, lack of understanding, and the need to balance cultural expectations with personal choices. 5. How has globalization impacted non-monogamy? Answer. Globalization has facilitated the spread of information and the formation of support communities, increasing visibility and acceptance of non-monogamy. Exploring the benefits and challenges of cultural practices of non-monogamy. 1. Benefits of cultural diversity in non-monogamy. Description. Cultural diversity enriches the understanding and practice of non-monogamy, offering different perspectives and experiences. Practical examples. Learning from traditional non-monogamous practices in other cultures can provide valuable insights. Cultural diversity can promote acceptance and normalization of non-monogamy. 2. Challenges of practicing non-monogamy in different cultures. Description. Practicing non-monogamy in cultures that value monogamy can present unique challenges. Practical examples. Navigating prejudices and stigmas associated with non-monogamy. Finding support communities and resources in predominantly monogamous cultures. Strategies for navigating cultural practices of non-monogamy. 1. Continuing to learn and educate. Description. Continuing to learn about different cultural practices of non-monogamy and educating others can promote understanding and acceptance. Practical examples. Attending workshops and seminars on cultural diversity and non-monogamy. Reading books and articles on non-monogamous practices in different cultures. 2. Seeking support and communities. Description. Finding support communities and mentors who understand cultural practices of non-monogamy can provide guidance and support. Practical examples. Joining online or local support groups dedicated to non-monogamy. Seeking mentors with experience in navigating non-monogamy in diverse cultural contexts. 3. Promoting inclusion and respect. Description. Working to promote an environment of inclusion and respect where all forms of relationships are accepted. Practical examples. Initiating or supporting diversity and inclusion initiatives that recognize and respect non-monogamy. Being a role model for inclusive and respectful behavior in all interactions. Conclusion. Cultural practices of non-monogamy around the world demonstrate the richness and diversity of this form of relationship. Although challenging, navigating non-monogamy in different cultural contexts can be enriching and promote greater understanding and acceptance. Establishing clear boundaries, continuing to learn, and seeking support are essential steps to creating a respectful and inclusive environment. Remember that each culture offers a unique perspective on non-monogamy, and learning from these practices can enrich your own experience.